welcome to this discussion of contemporary issues and perspectives in cultural studies. So, I'm Master Evangelista, and I'll be presenting to you some of these issues. And I think you've been hearing about, backlash about these particular influencers had been creating contents that are, in a way, dubbed as act of cultural appropriation. So this has been, an interesting issue, and these issues had been recurring in the past. So we just have to revisit these issues, and we have to, position ourselves to lean more on cultural appreciation and to avoid cultural appropriation. So first up, is this slide. Okay, so the goal of this discussion is that there are pressing issues in pop culture studies that may derive from opposing point of views because we have cultural differences and we have differences in values and perspectives, and definitely because of lack of sensitivity and knowledge. We cannot actually blame ourselves about these lack of sensitivity and knowledge, but we have the responsibility to be well informed and to be well read and to become more aware and ask people and talk to them so that we can have more knowledge. But regardless, the goal of this discussion is that we strive to maintain social harmony, promote cultural sensitivity, and foster mutual respect. We must be conscious of cultural diversity to appreciate the wonderful tapestry of humanity and our coexistence. So, differences are inevitable, they are there, and we have to embrace cultural diversity, but in a way, staying true to our compassionate humanity and I would say harmonious coexistence. Okay, so first things first, we have two issues that we have to talk about, and that is cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. So, we have to define what cultural appropriation is. So, it has been defined here. The keywords would be exploitative, disrespectful, stereotypical, misrepresentation, profit driven, and used by an outsider. I think we have to focus on these two because they had been the defining elements of cultural appropriation, especially when money is involved, or there is an economic side of cultural appropriation in which one person who had been, using appropriation could actually generate income out of the elements taken out from a particular culture. So, in a way, it is disrespectful and stereotypical. Well, it could be intentional or non intentional. Regardless of the motives of the person, it could be, in a way, leaning towards something bad in nature. So, how do we identify that something is actually cultural appropriation? We have to understand this diagram. So, we have these groups and we have these cultures, right? So, we have many cultures or we have many groups. For example, we're Filipino, others are Asian, others are American, and if we have to zoom out, we can actually see that ethnicity and nationality could actually be one identifiers of groups, or regardless, if we are in the Philippines, we still have minorities and subcultures that could actually be a group where you belong. So let's look into the macro based on race or ethnicity. So the cultural group that I am referring here is based on race or a particular ethnicity. So we have two ethnicities. So here is a cultural group, and we can actually be a member of this cultural group through kinship or blood. So if you were born as a Filipino, then you are a Filipino by blood or by naturalization. So this particular person, girl, is actually from this another cultural group, as we have to define it, coded by green. So this girl has taken out or borrowing, let me just say that first, an aspect of another culture's emblem or identity or tradition or material culture to be used by her. So this is an issue about an outsider taking in or borrowing an aspect of another culture that is different from hers. Okay, so let's move forward. So if that's the case, then we have here examples of appropriation. You can actually read this, but one keyword is by profiting financially or socially from the culture of a minority group is cultural appropriation. If you wanted to make a profit out of something that is not yours, well, we can say that is cultural appropriation, that is bad. Number two, the majority of the group is oversimplifying the culture of a minority. This could actually be undermining their culture. For example, if we are from Manila, NCR, and we can actually see somebody wearing G-string in Baguio City or Calderiela, or we could actually see somebody wearing a tattoo from Cordillera. So, and we grown up these people and malign their fashion probably. So that is in a way cultural oversimplification. If you would just have to say that, oh, that's their fashion, so it's so outdated. Those expressions could actually be examples of cultural appropriation. We should not make a joke out of something because it's an emblem, it's an identity, it's part of their identity, and so we have to be conscious and we have to be mindful of their emotions and feelings. So we should just avoid hurt or being, bad. Next is this. Number three, a member of a majority group separating cultural element of a minority group from its original meaning is cultural appropriation. So to simplify this one, we have pictures on the next slide. So we can explain this by saying that, you know, um, we try to misuse a part of their culture. For example, Avanca, I don't know how to say pronounce it in English. Avanca is actually a traditional boat of the Philippines, and if the designs are actually used by another culture, which is not really a maritime culture, so that's in a way appropriation. Another is this one, a member of a majority group adapting an element of a minority culture without consequences, while members of the minority group face backlash for the same cultural element is cultural appropriation. We can understand these better through pictures. So take a look of this one. So these are actually models, and in one of their fashion shows they were wearing like the dreadlocks used by Afros or Africans. So they have, um, this hairstyle is actually very rooted with the black Americans. So they have faced discrimination and they have a long history about their struggles with these hairstyles. So it is just simply being used as a fashion statement by these models in one of their shows. So this is one example of cultural appropriation. And this is a headdress of a native Indian, and it's only worn by by the leaders or tribal leaders. So not any member of the group could actually wear it, but only the leaders. But in one music festival and its social, partygoers had been wearing these headdress, and it's out of disrespect to the Native Americans group. And in the Philippines, I don't know if you are aware of this one, but I see it as a cultural appropriation. But since the member of the groups are very willing to put an ink into an outsider's white arm, is actually a way of cultural appropriation. And if they could actually generate money out of that, they are in a way selling an aspect of their culture to an outsider. So that could be a willful or a very willing act of selling, making money out of something that they have, and that's tattooing, part of their identity. So this is kind of problematic, but I see it as an example of cultural appropriation. Next, so we have here, on the other hand, cultural appreciation. So appreciation is when somebody like us, understand and learn about another culture in an effort to broaden our perspective and connect with them, understand them well through cross cultural exchanges is cultural appropriation. It is something that we feel towards another culture, removing our own bias and just promoting respect and focusing on mutual understanding. So these are the keywords: cultural exchanges, broaden minds and perspectives, mutual respect, and cultural sensitivity. If you wanted to read, this is our source, so it's actually a good read on how we can promote cultural appreciation. So this is a picture, a photo of a briefing or orientation, a cultural exchange program. So we could actually see a monk here, a Buddhist monk probably. This is in Southeast Asia or Bhutan or Mongolia. And Members of an outsiders of another group are actually being oriented, and based on their faces or facial expressions, the way they see it, they are conveying respect or deep respect and understanding very well what's being discussed in this particular orientation. These particular programs could enrich our cultural appreciation. And yeah, so we have ways to promote cultural sensitivity. First, we have to examine our own culture. We need to have introspection. Introspection is we have to look inwards. We have to understand who we are, the aspects of our culture, appreciate it, know the good and the bad to be able to, have a balanced or an objective view of our own culture. We also have to listen first. It's not only us who would always be talking about our stories, about our narratives, but we should always be a listener so that we can promote narratives and we can have conversations. Consider context, motivations, and intentions, and share your own culture with deep respect and with the aim of promoting, coexistence and social harmony. And yeah, that is. Thank you so much. Make the best of your time. Oh, yeah, make the best of your life. As I always say, time is precious but limited. Make the most of it. From your unbothered teacher or professor, yes, Evangelista. Thanks.